Honestly, are we looking for vengeance or are we looking for justice? Because these headlines are getting increasingly absurd. And before we talk about this one, it wasn't but a few weeks ago they were over there interviewing Ted Bundy's attorney, and that guy had the nerve to say the defense needed to do more. If they want to win this case, they can't play nice. Since when were they playing nice? I mean, some stuff is so absurd, so ridiculous, you just can't not talk about it. That being said, everything's alleged. Welcome to the point. Let's get into it.
This morning, a new twist in the investigation of University of Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger.
Oh my God.
Body camera footage obtained by ABC News shows police responding to an alleged home invasion 1 year before the murder.
So first and foremost, this kind of reminds me of those President Obama memes that were going around early on, where if you stubbed your toe, you blamed Obama. If your car broke down, you blamed Obama. A crime must have been committed somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, so let's blame Bryan Kohberger. I mean, that's the vibe I'm getting right now. At least that's how I'm seeing it. Please feel free to disagree down in the comments below.
Less than 10 miles from the off-campus home where 4 University of Idaho students were death. The woman tells police it was about 3:30 a.m. when a masked intruder entered her bedroom in Pullman, Washington, holding a knife.
I heard my door open, and I looked over, and someone was wearing a ski mask and had a knife. And so I, kicked the out of their stomach and screamed super loud, and they, flew back into my closet and then ran out my door and up the stairs.
According to the...
First off, whoever this young lady is, that's a boss. That's a boss move. You'd have a lot of people who would like to play quiet, pretend they're asleep, and hope nothing happens. This is what happens when you take action. I mean, if you're going to be put in a no-win scenario, at the very least, you need to make sure whoever's on the other end of this thing is catching hell. So good on her and good on her roommates.
Police report, she said the suspect was silent the whole time.
Even
and while one of her roommates quickly called police, officers found no suspect or...
Once again, quick thinking and fast actions. Now, a lot of these times it doesn't always go down like this. These two were very lucky. I mean, this could have ended up way worse than what it was. But I could almost guarantee you it was shock and surprise from this guy when he realized, regardless of whatever he was holding, neither one of these people were going to take what he was trying to dish out.
Or evidence. Months later, Kohberger was arrested for the of Kaylee Gonzalez, Madden Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin in Moscow, Idaho, where the also allegedly had a knife, wore a mask, entered the home in the early morning hours, and was silent as he left. 13 days later, Kohberger was named a person of interest in the Pullman case.
I guess he's just named a suspect just because. Hey, we had a crime go on next door. Let's try to blame this guy too. I understand to a degree what they're trying to say. These are similar crimes done in a similar manner and had similar victims. But he wasn't even the Pacific Northwest when all this went down. And I know there were some content creators making videos trying to tie these two crimes together, which is also equally ridiculous. But when your primary goal is vengeance, I can bet that it does alter how you perceive the world around you, if that makes any sense.
You look at the Idaho, one of the things the detectives and agents did almost immediately is, are there other cases in the area that might have some similarities? For example, fingerprints, DNA, hair samples, anything that you could either biologically or genetically or fingerprint-wise link the suspect to that particular burglary.
So apparently everything that they were trying to look for that could possibly link this particular crime to that one wasn't even available. At least not that we know of. I understand Bryan hasn't been found innocent, and we haven't gotten to trial yet, and there's a whole lot more left to be discovered and a whole lot that we don't know about. But as of right now, it's not looking like they have a whole lot in that case, just to be honest with you. Now, if they do, they do, and I don't mind being wrong on this channel because it is just an open discussion channel. But I feel like a lot of these are just reaching for headlines so they can get views and draw attention to other stories. But if you think this is crazy, wait till you hear about how this case ended.
According to the report, the woman described the Pullman suspect as 5'3" to 5'5". Kohberger is 6 feet tall.
I thought Dylan said it was 5'10" or taller. Now, is it possible in a scenario, and this is just a possibility, where we're just speculating, The individual that went into this home in Pullman maybe put on lifts or something so he wouldn't be as easily identified. Is it possible he was thinking, I learned my lessons from this last crime, let me put in some lifts to make myself appear taller, and the mistakes I made during this first round, I won't make them again the second time through. Because as we have said, one of the things that is weird with the Idaho 4 is that Bryan doesn't have any history of violence. He doesn't have a history of aggression towards others that we know of. And whoever did this crime in the Idaho 4 moved through that maze of a home seamlessly and was able to attack 4 people without making a sound, once again, as far as we know. So what if this was the person's second attempt at committing this crime? Is it possible that this guy in Pullman, while he got busted and escaped, learned his lessons and on the second time through didn't make the same mistakes he made before? Because one thing that a lot of people are forgetting, these are supposed to be areas where crimes like this just don't happen. Now, I don't know if that's a bill of goods they're trying to sell or crime in that area is changing, because it's sounding to me like crimes like this are happening more and more frequently in these 2 areas.
The report also reveals Kohberger, a Pennsylvania resident, was not yet enrolled at Washington State University, nor was he visiting the campus as a prospective graduate student. Pullman police tell ABC News Kohberger is no longer a person of interest in the break-in, adding, "We have no reason or evidence to believe he was involved in this burglary at this time."
I don't necessarily believe they have any evidence or reason to believe that Bryan did the crime in Idaho either. But that's just my guess, that's just speculation. If I've said it once, I'll say it again, and I'll say it 1,000 times. It is odd that in a crime so brutal and so up close and personal, such little DNA was left behind, and such little DNA from the crime scene made it into his car and his apartment. I mean, let's stop pretending like that's not strange. In fact, that is one of my biggest hang-ups in this whole case.
The case is now closed, but remains unsolved. Now, with Kohberger's trial slated to start in August, questions are growing about whether the defense will try to use that to raise doubt.
Without a doubt, Bryan Kohberger's defense team is going to try to raise reasonable doubt by pointing to an alternative suspect. In using this alleged burglary, the question becomes, why would a judge admit this evidence where nothing about this case tends to prove that Bryan Kohberger was not?
I'm not necessarily convinced they have to go the some other guy route in terms of this particular case right here. The sheer lack of evidence alone is more than enough reasonable doubt as long as everything pans out the way I'm thinking it'll pan out based off how these arguments in the hearings are going. I mean, Cy Ray is supposedly on his own gonna have more than enough to prove that he wasn't in Moscow during the time of this attack, allegedly speaking, of course. We don't know for sure, but that is the speculation and that is the online rumor. But this is about the second time I have seen an insanely ridiculous story come across my feed where some individual was trying to tie the Idaho 4 or Bryan Kohberger to some other crime or some other prolific convict. I mean, it's absolutely stupid. It's absolutely absurd. There is a right way and a wrong way, and for everybody feeling so confident about all this stuff, keep in mind the mainstream press was equally confident in the Karen Reed trial and the Richard Allen trial. And neither one of those trials went the way the mainstream press predicted. And I'm predicting that this particular case is going to end up being more open than shut. Now, if you disagree, please feel free to let me know down below. And if you like this, maybe check one of these videos out. Y'all be safe now.